everyone, my name is Angelica from the MathMagician Services, and today we're going to be discussing how to conduct a proper consultation. Now, consultations can be somewhat daunting, especially if you've never performed one before, but it is generally a must-have as a bookkeeper. You mostly have to figure out what your client's needs are and be able to kind of give them a rundown of what you do, and then this usually sets the base of if they want to work with you or not. So I know that a lot of us are not salesmen. I know I especially am not, and it takes a lot of time and effort to actually go into this, but we're going to go over a few ways today of how to prepare, conduct, and conclude a consultation. So let's jump right in. So let's go ahead and talk about how to prepare for a consultation. One of the first things that you want to do when it comes to preparing for a consultation is try to get as much information as you can on your client ahead of time. Whenever they usually want to link up with you or email you, message you to actually pursue a consultation, I like to find out what their name, phone number, company name, any information I can find. If they message me on LinkedIn, I usually like to peruse their LinkedIn page, find their website, kind of dig a little bit more and get to know a little bit more information about them. And if I've already had a really good conversation with them and they're wanting to know even more information, I ask and see if they would allow me to have accountant user access into their bookkeeping software. I know that with QuickBooks, you can allow accountant access, and I usually like to let people know if we end up not working together, you can always revoke that access, but at least it gives me a good baseline of what your needs are, and then that will give me a more appropriate way to give you a price of what the cost would be per month. Apart from learning information about your client, I would also come up with some questions to ask your client. These are going to be very important questions because they're going to show your potential client the value that you offer, and you're going to be able to find out more of their needs. And I actually have a little form that is a questionnaire that literally goes hand in hand with the pricing calculator that I have. And this form literally goes through the company information to the amount of transactions they have, loans, they track inventory, do they require payroll. So I have a whole entire form that I have potential clients fill out whenever they schedule a consultation with me. That way I know ahead of time a little bit of what I'm getting into. And then during our consultation, I'll bring up some of these questions and then ask them to kind of re-verify. And I do have that form and the pricing calculator, which go hand in hand, available in my Bookkeeping Academy. Some really good questions to ask during a consultation are hard-hitting questions that kind of remind your potential client of why you're even signing up for a bookkeeping service. These questions kind of bring out pain points that your client may or may not realize that they have. So a question could be like, why are you choosing right now to get this started? How long has this been an issue? If we were to get this taken care of for you, how else could this free up time, or how else could you make money if you didn't have to spend time doing bookkeeping services? So things that kind of bring up the value and show what your worth is and how you'll actually be helping them along. Because remember, in a consultation, you're not selling yourself. I mean, in a way you are, but you're more just showing how you can add value to this person's life. Just like if you're going to get services done from someone else, you want to know that you're paying for a good value and you're wanting to make sure that, hey, this is going to save me time and this is going to save me money in the long run, and this person could potentially be a partner for me to work with. And that's usually kind of how you want to lead the conversation, is let them realize how you can help them instead of what you're taking away from them. I know as a business owner myself, it can be really hard for me to let go of the reins and have someone else do my advertising for me or do office administrative work. I genuinely love doing that kind of stuff, but I don't have time to do it because I'm conducting business doing other people's books. And so same with other business owners. They may think that they can handle all of these aspects of their business, such as running their bookkeeping services, but they don't have the time for it, and they're wasting money spending time on it. So these are things that you can kind of bring up to them and just ask and just let them kind of resonate in those feelings and realizing like, yeah, man, if I had this time, then I could use it training more employees, or I could use it coming up with better services. And there's so many other things that business owners could be doing besides doing their bookkeeping services. And you're just wanting to let them know that you are there and you are going to add value to them and help them. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. Let's talk about actually conducting a consultation. You can either do this through like a virtual live meeting, you can do it through a phone call, you can do it in an in-person meeting. And since I do things mostly remotely, I usually will do it through Zoom or a phone call. I prefer phone calls because I get really nervous whenever I do Zoom, but I'm okay doing either. Zoom is kind of nice in the fact, or in-person meetings are really nice in the fact that you can actually see their expressions and kind of get to know what's going on. But it does seem like there's a little bit more pressure from both sides for that person to sign up right then and there. And it can just be kind of awkward. And I'm very introverted and I don't typically like doing that stuff. But that is entirely up to you and also entirely up to the client and what they want to do. Usually I'll start out the conversation with a little bit of small talk, talking about kind of where they're from, what they've been doing. Just try to slow it down a little bit and control the conversation. And when I say small talk, I'm not meaning you have to go on for hours about some random stuff that you saw on their website that you feel like you can relate to. I mean, just kind of keep it cool, like, hey, what's the weather doing over there? You can bring up something that you saw on their website that might be relatable. And then I would start by saying, all right, so I wanted to kind of outline this consultation and kind of show you and kind of give you an expectation of what I'd like to go over. And that is discussing your financial needs and ways that I can help you and how we can target fixing some of the issues that you are possibly having at the moment. But you want to approach the consultation with a polite and friendly manner. You want to make the client feel as comfortable as possible, because it's never that easy to seek out paying someone for a service, especially whenever you feel like this is something you could possibly take care of on your own. And they're already kind of having to swallow their pride. So you want to make them feel as comfortable as possible whenever you start the conversation. So again, you kind of want to ask them a little bit about what they do, how long they've been doing it. You can ask them a little bit of the revenue that they make and why they are reaching out for some help right now. Sometimes that answer could be that they are leaving another bookkeeper. Sometimes that answer is they just don't have time. Sometimes it's because they're growing and they need some more help with it. They were doing stuff on their own, but realize that they don't have the means to do that anymore, and things are just moving too fast for them. And so you want to be prepared, again, ahead of time to be able to kind of show your value in that. And whenever they ask, or whenever you ask them, why are you making this decision now? And they say, oh, the bookkeeper that I had just didn't work out. That's when you ask a little bit more and you go, do you mind if I ask what the bookkeeper was doing previously? And there are a lot of people that usually say that they're not getting reports on time or they just couldn't keep up. So you want to make sure that you're kind of putting this person's mind at ease and showing your worth and the importance of like monthly reports are a huge thing that I really focus on. I think it's important that business owners understand their finances, so I always make sure to get me monthly reports and so on and so forth. Beyond this, you want to ask kind of what their business goals are, their financial goals, and then that way you get a clear understanding of the business's financial requirements and if you could quite honestly help them. So it's up to you if you want to go ahead and start writing a quote for them right then and there. I know some people will usually wait to do a more in-depth consultation where they are going over the actual bookkeeping software or they've looked at it and then they come up with a quote. I usually like to do it right then and there because I found that if I let that person kind of off the hook for that time and then I try to get back with them to discuss things in further detail, that majority of the time and they're not going to get back on that hook. So I usually try to get a quote made up right then and there. And like I said, with that little form that I was talking about earlier, that little questionnaire, whenever they fill it out ahead of time, it usually answers all the questions that I need to come up with a price. So I usually have a price mostly ready beforehand. And then depending on the consultation and how they answer, if they want business advisory services, payroll, inventory, other additional services that I offer, then I can kind of make up for that. If they are talking about needing a cleanup done and they're a certain amount of months behind, then I can usually kind of adjust for that as well. But that's why it's so important for me to have this form questionnaire right off the bat, because that way I don't have to waste time or go through all of these questions while I'm on the consultation call. Like I said, I do go through them with the clients when I'm on the call with them, but it's more of a like shortened version, just kind of verifying, like, I noticed on the form that you filled out that you said you don't require payroll. This is true. Okay. And then we kind of go down the line a little bit. And then I will give them an idea of what the cost will be based off of that pricing calculator that I was talking about. And it's up to them if they want to work with me or not. And most of the time, people are going to have to think about it. So I usually let them know, hey, I will send this to you. And if you are wanting to go ahead, send this to you. But you want to make sure that you have an idea of when they are going to get back to you. Don't just let them off the hook without having some kind of date to meet back up. You could say, you know, how much time do you need to think about this? And if they say a week, then say, okay, if we can touch base on Monday, and we can go from there. And that way you at least have something already lined up and you're not just letting them off the hook and they're just going away. Now, if they decide that they want to work with you right then and there, I usually tell them what my next steps are. Next steps for me, as far as onboarding a client, is having them sign an agreement and having them fill out a user login form, having them fill out a credit card authorization form, giving me access to their bookkeeping software, and then setting up another meeting after that to go over their finances in more detail, like how they generally like to categorize things, getting information on their invoicing, their bill payments, all of that good stuff. And that's usually how I typically go through that. And in the next video, I'll talk a little bit more about how to actually conduct a client onboarding that's successful. If they're uncertain or if they're kind of ghosting you, if things seem like they went really well and then they kind of start ghosting you, do not be afraid to follow up with them. I would follow up with them at least 3 to 4 times, and don't just email them. If they haven't responded back to your emails, try calling them. Literally try any way you can. If they're on LinkedIn, message them and just say, hey, I was just getting back with you to see what you thought about this, because they might sometimes just need a reminder. They might be mulling it over, going back and forth, going, and then you popping up again is going to kind of give them that push of like, yeah, I really like this person, or not. I really like this person and I think that I could be good to work with. And please do not forget, while you're conducting these consultations, you don't have to be all super business savvy. Like, approach the consultation in a professional manner. But 9 times out of 10, someone's going to want to work with you for who you are and the vibe that they get from you. As weird as that is, that's going to be the majority of it. And I would try to refrain from talking too much about yourself and what you do. If they ask the services that you offer, you can kind of go into a little bit of detail, but I wouldn't start off the consultation by asking them what they do and then immediately going, well, this is what I can do for you. I would just ask them those questions. And then if they want to ask you a little bit about you and what you do, you can say, I'm a full service bookkeeper. I'm a tax accountant. I only do categorizations. I'm an enrolled agent. You can tell them about yourself, but try not to make the focus of the consultation about you. Make the focus of it about them and how you can help them. I wanted to include on this video a brief little snippet of a real life consultation that I had with someone, and it actually turned into a successful client that I've been working with for a few months now. So I hope that y'all enjoy that.
2 businesses right now. One in Nashville, one in Charlotte. We're a paying business. We do residential and commercial work. We do have an accountant right now, bookkeeping, for my business in Nashville. Charlotte is a little bit newer. One of my things that, wasn't kind of thinking about this at first, but the more I kind of, over the weekend, thought, it's like, well, I'd love to kind of talk to you about Nashville as well. We currently have some guys, they do a great job. I mean, they definitely keep my books in line for sure, and got the numbers all right, but what I've noticed is just kind of behind a lot. And I would love to, I understand everybody has, I'm not their only customer and stuff, but if that's something that we could look at, the pricing's right and things, so then I'd love to, kind of move it on over to you.
Yeah, so whenever you say they're behind a lot, like to what extent, I guess, is
so a lot of times it's hard to get a hold of them. At the same time, too, it's just like at the end of the month, I don't know how you do it, but they send me kind of a financial statement broken down of like my numbers and, kind of all that, keeping me up to date. Well, those have been coming in pretty late. I'm noticing like 20 days after the month ends. and 15 to 20 days, I should say. And so I was hoping to kind of speed that up a little bit, that, if we could kind of know where we're at, it'll help me gauge a little bit better. But that's kind of where I was thinking.
I guess what is happening now in your business that made you want to reach out about this? I mean, I know I kind of reached out to you, but I guess what next do you want to reach out?
Yeah, I would just say just kind of the speed thing. I did do at first QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks now, but I was using QuickBooks Online with the accountant, and I'm not going to lie, that was kind of a mess with that whole thing. So that's more so if I could make sure my books are accurate. And then I know that, are you a CPA as well, so you could do my taxes, or would I have to?
I do not do taxes. That's the only thing I do not do. I know of a CPA in Nashville that they're wonderful. I recommend them to you as well.
And that's perfect. If you have that, that's great. Like, I'm not too worried about that part of it. Main thing is just if my numbers are right, the bookkeeping's right, and it's just kind of because there's times, there's a lot of moving parts and stuff, and I do a pretty good job on staying up to date on sending out the invoices, collecting, and things like that. But if you guys are able to kind of get the price right with us and kind of just have it all accurate, then there's no reason why I wouldn't switch.
Yeah, for sure. And what exactly do you usually require from them to do? Do you send out your invoices yourself, or do you have them send out invoices for you? Or
right now, I just send them out myself.
Okay.
So I kind of handle just that with the customer and collecting payments and everything.
Okay.
The only thing I really have them do is just keeping the books up to date.
Okay.
And help with projections too. Could you kind of project kind of what we're looking at and kind of help me kind of budget a little bit on certain things?
Yeah, that's part of that business advisory is kind of like, like you said, project forecasting, kind of looking at cash flow statements and realizing how the money is coming in and coming out. Because
I do love how your thought process to talking about the numbers at the end of the month. If there's like a certain date on the end of the month, like we could kind of get that, like, all right, December or the 7th, like we'll talk about it now. Just kind of get on that flow, because I think this is, kind of starting a business is, there's a lot happening when you kind of start going, and finally when you settle down and look at all the numbers and stuff, there's a lot of places that I was like, man, I could definitely cut back on those numbers and things like that. But yeah, if that's something that we could do, I would love to.
Okay.
Talk to you more about that.
Yeah, I definitely could. So I have a little questionnaire that I usually like to go over with everybody. And so this is kind of what all is involved with the business. So the first question is, what is the estimated transactions per month? This includes your income and expenses. So money going out, how many transactions per month would you say between both locations? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'd say it's a pretty big difference between Nashville and Charlotte. Let's just say with Nashville, and honestly, I might try to give you access to see it on QuickBooks, because I can't really give you a number. It's sometimes during the summer it is, it's super hot. Like, we're just nonstop, just a lot of things moving. I think we're about, I need to check again, but I think in total revenue in Nashville we've done about $750,000 this year.
Okay.
Next year we're going to start getting into commercial stuff, and we should kind of almost probably double it, if not just be right below doubling it.
Okay.
So there's going to be a big kind of change there. But yeah, I think it'd be best if I kind of showed you my QuickBooks, just because I really can't give you it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with that as well. Having access, and then obviously if things fall through, then you can remove that access.
Yeah.
How many accounts do you have between a checking?
A big believer into, I'll tell you right now, is like, price is definitely a big factor when it comes to this whole thing for me. But again, I paid about whatever it was, like $125 or $150 with QuickBooks, and just the hell I went through there. I understand if I have to pay more to get quality, then that's it. So
But other than that, I hope this video cleared up a few things for you on how to conduct a successful consultation. And keep an eye out for my upcoming video that actually goes into client onboarding once someone says yes after a consultation. And if you are just starting out a bookkeeping business or thinking of becoming a bookkeeper, I do have a Bookkeeping Academy where I go into detail about the fundamentals of bookkeeping, how to use QuickBooks Online, how to conduct these consultations, and like I said, my little questionnaire form, the pricing calculator. I have all kinds of little goodies for you guys. So be sure to check that out and sign up if you're interested. Consider subscribing and liking this video if you want to see more content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.